Some of the most dangerous people you will ever meet do not look dangerous at all. They stay calm. They sound reasonable. They never explode. They never give you the kind of obvious proof that would make anyone else say, yes, that is abuse. And yet after enough time with them, you start apologizing for things you did not do. You start doubting conversations you remember clearly. You start rehearsing simple sentences in your head before saying them out loud. And eventually, you stop trusting your own mind more than you trust theirs. That is not bad communication. That is not a rough patch. That is psychological control. And one of its sharpest forms has a name: gaslighting. If that word feels overused, stay with me, because real gaslighting is not someone disagreeing with you. It is someone systematically breaking your confidence in what you saw, what you felt, and what you know happened. And the terrifying part is how normal it looks while it is happening. It usually starts with something small. Small enough that you almost feel embarrassed for bringing it up. A comment, a promise, a look, a sentence you remember exactly. So you mention it, not aggressively, not dramatically, just honestly. And instead of answering the point, they do something subtle. They make you question your right to have brought it up in the first place. That is not what I said. You took it the wrong way. You always make things bigger than they are. Why are you doing this again? And now the conversation has changed. You were trying to talk about what happened. Now you are defending your memory, your tone, your intention, your sanity. That shift is the whole game, because the goal was never to solve the issue. The goal was to move you off the ground you were standing on, to make you uncertain, to make you hesitate, to make you say, wait, maybe I'm remembering this wrong. That moment right there is where control begins. Not when they lie, when you start helping the lie by doubting yourself. And that is why gaslighting is so effective. It does not overpower you. It recruits you. It turns your own mind into the place where the manipulation continues long after the conversation ends. You leave the room, but the argument does not leave with you. It keeps going, in your head, on a loop. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I pushed too hard. Maybe I misunderstood the tone. Maybe I should have stayed quiet. That is not reflection. That is psychological residue. That is what happens when someone trains you to distrust your own perception. And the people who do this well almost never look theatrical. They do not usually sound evil. They sound calm, measured, even caring. That is what makes it so hard to explain to other people. From the outside, it can look like a simple misunderstanding. A couple with communication issues, a friend who says you are overthinking, a parent who insists they never said that, a partner who keeps calling you emotional every time you react to something painful. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just a steady rearranging of reality until your version of events starts feeling less believable to you than theirs. That is why so many victims of manipulation sound the same when they describe it. They do not say, I felt abused. They say, I felt confused. I felt drained. I felt like I was failing some test I could never quite understand. If you have ever lived this, you know exactly what that feels like. And that is one of the clearest signs that something is wrong. Because healthy relationships do not leave you chronically confused about whether your pain is real. Now here is where it gets even darker. A skilled manipulator does not only challenge what happened, they slowly reshape who you believe you are. You are too sensitive. You are hard to talk to. You always twist things. You are dramatic. You are insecure. You hear those lines once, you resist them. You hear them 20 times, something changes. You hear them from someone you love, someone you fear losing, someone whose approval has started to matter too much. And now, the message gets inside. There is a reason for that. The brain is highly vulnerable to repetition, especially repetition tied to emotion. The more often you hear something, the more familiar it becomes. And familiarity has a dangerous way of masquerading as truth. So after enough rounds of being told that you are the unstable one, you stop hearing it as an accusation. You start hearing it as identity. That is when the manipulation stops feeling external it becomes internal. You begin editing yourself before they even speak. You water down your feelings before expressing them. You add disclaimers to your pain. You apologize before making a point. You ask for permission to trust what you already know. That is the real damage. Not just that they lied to you. It is that they trained you to abandon yourself before anyone else had to. And once that pattern is deep enough, they barely need to do anything anymore. One look can do it. One sigh. One cold pause. One sentence like, "Here we go again." And suddenly, you are back inside the old script. Trying to prove you are reasonable. Trying to earn the right to be hurt. Trying to explain your reality to someone who benefits from your confusion. Read that again. Someone who benefits from your confusion. That is the part people miss. Gaslighting is not just denial. It is denial with a purpose. The purpose is not to be understood. The purpose is to remain in control. Because if you trust your own perception, you become harder to manipulate. Harder to silence. Harder to shrink. Harder to keep. And that is why the manipulation often intensifies right before clarity returns. The moment you start noticing the pattern, the story changes. Now, you are paranoid. Now, you are starting fights. Now, you are rewriting history. Now, you are the problem. That escalation is not random. It is panic. It is what control looks like when it feels itself slipping. And once you see that, a lot of things start making sense. You realize the issue was never that you were too emotional. It was that your emotions were detecting something real. You realize the issue was never that you were too sensitive. It was that your sensitivity kept catching the distortion. You realize the issue was never that you could not communicate clearly. It was that clarity was never the outcome they wanted. That realization can be painful, because it forces you to grieve more than the relationship. You grieve how long you doubted yourself, how many times you overrode your instincts, how much energy you spent trying to win fairness from someone committed to confusion. But that grief is also the beginning of freedom, because the way out of gaslighting is not the perfect final argument. You will not out-explain someone who survives by distorting. You will not finally phrase it so perfectly that they become honest. The way out begins somewhere quieter. Evidence. Write things down. Save messages. Track patterns. Keep notes after conversations. Not to convince them, to reconnect with yourself. Because when someone has spent months or years fogging your reality, documentation becomes oxygen. It gives your memory something solid to hold. It gives your future self a place to stand when the doubt comes back. And it will come back. At first, that does not mean you are weak. It means your mind is healing from being trained to question itself. This is also where boundaries start to matter. Not performative boundaries, not speeches, real ones. Private ones. The kind that begin with a simple decision. I will no longer treat my confusion as proof that they are right. That one decision changes a lot, because confusion is often the first symptom of manipulation, not the proof that you imagined it. The more you understand that, the less power the tactic has, and slowly, self-trust returns. Not all at once, not dramatically, but in pieces. You notice the twist faster. You catch the reframing sooner. You stop rushing to defend yourself every time someone sounds certain. You stop assuming calmness means innocence. You stop abandoning what you felt just because someone else delivers denial in a softer voice. That is when the spell starts breaking. And once it breaks, something important becomes almost impossible to ignore. Not every gentle tone is safe. Not every composed person is honest. Not every misunderstanding is innocent. And not everyone who makes you question your reality deserves continued access to you. If this kind of video helps you put language to things you felt but could never fully explain, subscribe. Because the most dangerous manipulation is the kind you cannot name while it is happening. And once you can name it, you can fight it. More importantly, you can stop mistaking your confusion for your character. You are not hard to love. You are hard to control completely. And there is a difference, a massive one. The moment you see that difference clearly, everything starts to change.